We have ignition and liftoff. Liftoff of the Soyuz rocket, beginning the first expedition to the International Space Station and setting the stage for permanent human presence in space.
Good evening, Shep. It's great to see you. Thank you so much for agreeing to be our virtual keynote speaker for Illumination 2022.
Hey, Linda, great to see you and great to be with your audience tonight, even if it's only virtual. I just wish that Asset School has another 65 years of roaring success, and it was a real treat to talk to several of your classes three or 4 weeks ago. I was really impressed with what's going on at the school and the quality of the education that you're giving these kids.
Thank you, Shep. Why is Hawaii so important to you?
Well, I've got a couple different connections to Hawaii. I've been there before. I was in the Navy for a large part of my career, 31 years actually. And I stopped in Pearl Harbor a couple of times. But on one of my space flights, Lacey Beach, a Hawaiian native from Punahou High School, was on our crew, and he was a great inspiration for all of us. He flew an artifact as part of his space kit up in space with us on Columbia. We all got down after the flight and returned back to Oahu and met the Polynesian Voyaging Society and some of the navigators that preserved the art of navigating the Pacific. And this tool that Lacey had flown was something that was used in antiquity to build these canoes. The other big connection with Hawaii, not only for me, but for everybody in the astronaut office, was Ellison Onizuka. He was one of the first shuttle astronauts. And unfortunately, he was part of the Challenger crew that we lost in 1986. But he was just a great guy, and everybody thought the world of him.
Shep, I remember exactly where I was standing that day when I saw the liftoff, and what a heartbreaking and devastating day it was for our nation. It's remarkable how you knew two of Hawaii's space heroes, and from your career as a Navy SEAL to being an astronaut to being the first science advisor to U.S. Special Command, SOCOM, and now in retirement, you have decided to be a teacher and dedicate yourself to education and youth. Tell us why that's so important to you.
My dad was a pilot and an engineer, and I was always interested in what my dad was doing, and I always asked him what was going on, why things worked a certain way. He was a really patient guy, but I'm sure most parents in the audience tonight will appreciate this. Occasionally, he would say, "Billy, stop asking me questions." he got it. Some days he had somewhat of enough of it, but I always wanted to know what was the substance of something, what was really behind what was going on. And for whatever reason, I always had that desire to know that. And I think it transferred very well into my SEAL work, and it worked really well as an astronaut. There are lots of things that go on as an astronaut, training and operations that you really have to think about to get your arms around what's going on. And it exposed me to many, many people, instructors and trainers and educators, and I got to see a lot of different methods of transferring knowledge. And I got to see the good and the bad, and I'm really kind of focused on making education really good, because I think it's one of the most important things as a society that we do, and it's our future.
We agree with you, Shep, and we appreciate how you've embraced ASSET's mission. Thank you again for teaching 2 space exploration classes to our students. Tell us what you thought of our students, and then let's take a look at that footage.
Yeah, I was really impressed with both classes that I talked to, and I'm continually amazed at what kids think about and what questions they can come up with. And whatever you're doing out there, keep it up, because it's working. During your flight up, it's 9 minutes. You're really busy, and you've trained for this hundreds of times. You don't have a lot of latitude or ability to just reflect and kind of daydream about what's going on. You can do that half an hour later, but during the ascent, it's just, I think they've trained it out of all of us. And so you're going around that 24,000 miles in 90 minutes.
That's really fast.
So can you guys figure out so that means you're going 17,000 miles an hour? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Go around the earth once every 90 minutes. Have you guys seen some of the video?
Yeah.
What is it like to go to space?
You're getting pressed back into your seat, and that lasts for a little less than 10 minutes. Who can tell me why you feel like you're being pressed into the seat? What's going on there? Who knows?
I believe it's called the concept of G-forces.
Basically, there's a rocket booster at the end of your spaceship, so it's blasting you up, and then basically because it's doing like this, so you're kind of getting pulled down because the rocket's going up and it's not directly attached to you.
So when you have that speed increase, you feel that as a force. And that's what it feels like to go into space, Kia. There's a big force that presses on you, and that lasts the whole time that you're getting up into orbit.
What is your favorite thing about space?
You see Africa, South America, Europe, Asia, Canada, I mean, just Micronesia, Hawaii. So you see all kinds of places around the world most people never ever see. That's the coolest thing about being in space.
How does the crew sleep in space?
How does the crew sleep in space? Well, it's pretty easy because your body is not restrained in any way. So you're free to relax. There's no force on your body. Nothing's pressing on you. Even when you sleep on Earth, you're on your back or on your stomach or on your side. There's pressure on your body while you're doing that. In space, that all goes away. The human body can accommodate to being in space pretty readily. Most people wanted to be in something like a real light sleeping bag, not so much because they were cold, but in space you kind of drift around a little bit when you're in zero gravity, and they wanted something just to keep them from bumping into things in the middle of the night, because that might wake you up.
Why was that guy ringing the bell?
And so they do that now on the space station, principally when one astronaut or one country gives over command of the space station to another astronaut or cosmonaut, and that's what they're doing when they ring the bell. Pretty cool, huh?
What do you do up in the space station? Like, what is your job?
Okay, so our mission was kind of unique because as the first crew, our job was to help assemble the various pieces of the space station. So almost our whole workday for the 4.5 months we were there was assembling different parts of the station and turning systems on that were designed to be operated, but only after they were hooked up in orbit. So that was our primary job.
What is the station meant to do now?
Well, we have literally hundreds of research activities that are ongoing all the time on space station. People on the ground put ideas for experiments together. They devise equipment. We send it into space. The astronauts install it, support it, turn it on, monitor it, do whatever's got to be done with the experiment. And people on the ground are seeing data, we call it telemetry, about how the experiment's going and what's happening.
What are your thoughts on future space exploration?
So I think that space exploration is going to continue. We're going to have a balance between the robots and the machines and the human crews. And to have a mix of those two is probably the best way to do it. If we're ever going to have the skill to go to Mars and any other place in the solar system, we've got to develop the capability to do that in a place where it's relatively safe to test out those capabilities. And that place is the moon.
Were there any like lasting health effects from being up in space for so long?
Long-term radiation effects for astronauts are something that doesn't seem to be a huge problem right now when we fly close to the Earth. But when we go to the moon or Mars, it's going to be a problem. It could be a big problem.
I have another question. How do you feel about them going to crash the ISS into the Earth again?
Well, I think it's a question of money, expense, values. I do think that the ISS can still do some things that would be very interesting, one of which would be to figure out a very much more powerful engine that we could use to get humans to go to Mars. And if we wanted to test that, we could put it on the back of the space station and we could boost the space station's orbit high enough that it would not come down out of space for thousands of years. And that's what I think NASA ought to do. But it takes money to do that. So right now the plan is to aim the space station at a particular part of probably the Southwest Pacific Ocean and put it in the water when its time is due. I think that's probably what's going to happen. I'm not a fan of that, but that's what NASA's going to do.
What can you share about the late relative former astronaut Ellison Onizuka?
He was the kind of person that everybody liked. He was extremely popular and just a great astronaut. One of the things that he did for the space program that is still going on today. Before Ellison, there were no macadamia nuts, or there was no Kona coffee in space, and now they have it all the time. It's because Ellison showed us what that stuff was, and everybody really liked it. Yeah, and we have an Air Force base in California that's named after Ellison, and he's a famous name in space history. As long as we have a space program, people will remember who Ellison was.
Would you ever want to go back to space?
And I'd go in space next week, but I don't want to do another 5 years of training. So put it that way. If they could make the training 6 weeks, I'd raise my hand.
What was your favorite thing about being an astronaut?
Favorite thing about being an astronaut? I got to say, having a mission, having it be successful, and having a good landing. That was my favorite thing. The space program is made up of many highly qualified people, and some of them are astronauts, but the rest of them have great things to do to keep it all happening and keep the people safe. And so that's why the space program is so special.
Thank you, Shep. I get so excited when I see that footage, and we're so grateful that you provided it to us. Our K-8 panel is comprised of students that were nominated by their teachers, and they were asking questions that our entire student body had submitted for that special class. So we appreciate our high school students who participated in the space exploration class, as well as our K-8 panel. It was a really exciting day for both campuses. Well, Shep, we have to wrap it up. I'm just curious if you have any parting thoughts before we say goodnight.
Well, Linda, thank you so much for exposing me to what's going on at Asset School, meeting your two classes, and also the opportunity to be your keynote speaker tonight. My career has been filled with relations with other individuals, particularly in the Navy, that these people had tremendous skills, but sometimes these were hidden talents. And I can name any number of people that I worked with that were really brilliant folks, but they hadn't really done that well in school because the standard school curriculums didn't really fit them. And I think what you're doing is really, really remarkable because you've broken that mold and you're creating specialized education. I think that's the future. I would hope that the audience tonight is going to break out their checkbook and help you do a lot more of that. But again, I really enjoyed my contact with you, and hopefully I can get to Hawaii soon and meet more people in the school in person.
Shep, thank you so much. It is our honor and privilege for you to be our virtual keynote speaker tonight, and for our children to get a chance to meet with you and hear about your experiences and your journey and your commitment to education. You've really inspired everyone at our school, and we can't thank you enough, and we look forward to working with you in the future for more space exploration classes. Thank you again. We really appreciate everything you do for us. Thank you.